Hey, everybody. I want to thank you guys for joining us today on another episode of Dream Big, Live Large. Today I have a special guest host and I also have a special guest. I have uh, Nolo. He's going to be joining us today as a special guest host. And then we also have Mr. Khalil Kain, who will be speaking to today about his play. Today, Lambs to Slaughter. So we're gonna be speaking with him shortly. And I think I have Nolo on. Nolo, can you hear me? Are you on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for joining and for being my special guest co-host today. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Listen, thank you. I really appreciate you just coming on and uh, really just showing love. So I appreciate that. So today we're going to be talking to Mr. Khalil Kain. He's going to be calling in shortly. But I just want you to kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself as well before we get started.
Keep it simple, I guess. Born and raised in Florida, making a transition out here to the West Coast. I am a musician and a writer. I do pretty much all types of genres of music. Rapping is my hip hop, is my forte. I got a poetry book that's out right now. It's called Read. You can find that at introsophy.com. That's introsophy.com. The socials, Twitter, Solo, Dolo, Nolo, Instagram, Nolo underscore 45.
Hello, Khalil.
Yeah, yeah, this is
Hey,
Khalil.
how
What's
you
happening?
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. I'm
Yeah,
healthy. I'm healthy. I'm glad that you were able to get through. I know it can get a little tricky and everything, but thank you just for your time today.
Yeah, all good. No worries. No worries.
yeah, what's going
Well,
on,
listen.
Khalil? Pleasure to meet you.
Right on, brother. Hey,
Can I go by Nolo?
pleasure to meet you, brother. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to you too.
All right. So thank you so much, Nolo and Mr. Kane. I appreciate you both just giving me your time today. So we're gonna kind of go ahead and just jump right in. Nolo and I read the play, Lambs to Slaughter. We also listened to the project, the EP, as well. And I gotta say, like, it was a very interesting discussion piece. Like, and that's just keeping it light. It was a very interesting discussion piece. I think I'm gonna let Nolo kick it off with his question first here, and then we'll keep it going.
Right on.
All right, cool. So this is kind of like a two-part question. After listening to the EP with the same name, Lambs to Slaughter, just as a fan, because I do music too. So when I heard it, I was like, yo, this is some heat. The inspiration on that, like you were going for like, I don't want to say you were going for, but I mean when you draw your inspiration, I guess music wise, like production and like how the poetry was coming out, that was like you was going like you have like that tribe in you, that tribe called Quest. Like I could really
Ha,
hear that. I was
yeah,
really
man. I was
feeling that.
raised on that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I won't.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. I'm listening, but I never thought about it in those terms, or that was not something that was conscious on my part. Um, but I can definitely, once you said it just now, I would agree with you. And I know for a fact that when that music dropped, it was something that moved me. You know, I felt like the worm had turned and we had moved into a new area. I mean, I don't know. Back then in the '90s, music felt like that. Like it was changing. Like it was affecting the culture as
Right.
opposed to just being music. You know.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of the EP, do you feel like the the whole album itself like helps set the tone for this play's atmosphere?
Not necessarily. No. They're two separate projects. Um, the music was inspired um from poems. Some of the poems that are on the EP are in the play, some are not. This was something that was more the brainchild of Thomas Donker, who is doing the music for Lambs to Slaughter for the play. Now, the music in the play will not necessarily be that music. The poems will be the same, but to address the moment in the piece, the music will be different.
I feel it. And then it was hard trying to come up with questions that wouldn't help spoil the.
Let me give you some clarity on those two projects and how they're connected.
Okay.
I had worked on a project probably 2 years before that I directed a theater piece that this man, Thomas Donker, did the music for. We worked well together. I really dug what he came up with for the piece. The piece was interesting. It was difficult. It was not something that was sort of a clear-cut idea. So he had to kind of invent his own lane. You know what I mean? Both of us, as a director and him, creating the music, we had to take the play and sort of interpret it through our own lens. And what he came up with, I thought was really dope. So when I finished Lambs to Slaughter, I called Tomas. I said, yo, man, I've got this play. And he was like, what? You wrote a play? I was like, yeah, I wrote this play. And I would really be interested in you doing the music for it. He was like, outstanding. I love it. I'm in. Let me get the play. He said, is it a musical? I said, no, it's not. So I sent him the play. He calls me back after reading it. He really dug the piece. He said, but I need you to recite some of these poems for me so that I can get a vibe of where you're at tone-wise, and then it will inform me on like where I'd like to go musically. Cool. So we set a date, we got together, and I started reciting some of the poetry. His response was, I'd like to go into the studio. Now, I'm not a musician. I'm not a singer. I don't play an instrument. Well, at the time, I didn't play an instrument. Now I sort of do. But we got in the studio and started recording things. And there's other stuff that got recorded. That's what Tomas decided to put on the EP. Those are some of the things that he chose. Once we were in the studio, and this was over time, I would be in the studio and writing. So some of these were pieces that I wrote while sitting in the studio, hearing them play. So it was a collaborative effort. I think they both stand alone. They have a bridge between them from an inspiration standpoint, but they are separate creative projects. I would say that.
Okay. Well, I definitely enjoyed the EP, so I know whenever the play is actually, we can actually go see it. I'm looking forward to it. And because of that, I mean, the world is, pretty crazy right now. Everything's uncertain. Do you have an idea of when you expect, or do you have an idea of when you would like it to be released? I mean, if the world is still crazy, like, would you consider it being like something you release or you record and then you put out like somewhere digitally or anything like that?
It's out. It's out in the world. People have listened to it.
The play?
No, the EP.
The play. Yeah.
The play is being produced by the Negro Ensemble Company in May of 2021.
Okay. All right. Be looking forward to it.
Me too.
Yeah, when I was just going back and reading the actual script itself and just trying to think of questions to ask, it was hard to come up with, I guess, ones that wouldn't be spoilers. So the best way I can write that I can say it is this like one story? Do you feel like this is just the beginning of the series? Do you see like a part two or part three to this happening, or what is your stand on that? Is it still too early to say?
I don't know. As far as spoiler alerts, I don't know that that's really a worry. I mean, we can have a conversation about it. That's not something that concerns me too much. Um, I'm looking at this as a standalone piece. Um, I'm looking at it as a performance piece, and I want it to be an experience, man, where people come. I want there's going to be a live band. So when Paul and it get up and spit these poems, they're going to be backed up by a band. And from night to night, that performance is going to be what it is. That was a note given. Um, I'm excited about the opportunity, performance-wise, from the artists that tackle this project, of what they come up with from show to show. I mean, think about how you're feeling right now with all that's going on, with all that's swirling around in your world. How you feel today, how you feel this month is not how you felt 6 months ago. And I would like a performance to hold that, from night to night, from show to show.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Like I remember reading that part and going through the and going through those poems. The way my mind visualizes things is as movies, and I haven't seen too many plays, so I remember seeing like the Tyler Perry Medea plays, before they became the movies. Um, but I mean, short of that, it was just hard for me to, I guess, do the poem and then try to do the poem in a different way. So just picturing the dynamic and seeing where that's going to go. Like, I'm really interested. I would have to, plan a week or two or a week or so just to, go to see the show twice, just to see how it gets performed differently each
Right.
time.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping that people will come and then come again. There have been plays like Fela on Broadway. I saw it, and 3 nights later, I went back again and took my mother. Um, I did the same thing with Rent. When I saw Rent on Broadway, I went back, maybe a week later to see it again. Um, you question, like, did I just experience what I think I did? Did that just happen? Like, wait a minute, whoa, hold up. Um, I think that's what I want. I think the story that Lambs to Slaughter tells is a story that we are very familiar with,
Right.
black,
It
white,
is.
other, as
It is.
Americans. Um, how the cast, the director, the designers choose to tell that story on any given night is up to them. How the audience takes it in on any given night, it's up to them. I want there to be that freedom available um, in those moments, and I think the Negro Ensemble Company is the perfect home for something like that to happen. I mean, with the EP, which is Fly, is that I've had an opportunity to go out with the band and perform these poems, the poems that are on the EP, live in front of audiences. Um, Really informative to me. The response was great. It was very positive. Some very powerful moments for me as an artist and for me as a performer. I learned a lot, um, and it gave me some excitement for what could be possible with the play.
Now, I will say I'm excited about it and just being able to kind of see the, because I'll tell you, just reading it from beginning to end, and then just kind of seeing the way that it climaxed. Um, it was a bit shocking. It was a bit shocking for me.
Yes.
Um, I was like, "What?" And I had to go back, and I was like reading a couple different pieces about it. Well, going back and reading a couple different pieces in the play, and I just want to know, how did you manage to, I guess, plan, like, what was your structure? What was your plan going into writing the play?
Um, Me writing right now, I've been doing a lot of it. Um, it's a way for me to keep my sanity, to get things off my spirit that are weighing heavily on me. I think it was in '95, maybe. I think it was in 1995. My first cousin Dorian Lum, he was murdered here in New York. Um,
Wow.
Down on the east side, he was shot in the back. You know, by one of his homeboys.
What?
And I was in Los Angeles working. I was shooting a film called Renaissance Man, and it was a studio picture. And I informed the director, Penny Marshall is the director. I informed her that my cousin was murdered and I needed to go home. Um, and she told me no. I mean, Penny's from the Bronx. She knows what's up. She's cool people. Rest in peace. She told me, with the schedule the way it is right now, we can't let you go. We can't afford to let you go right now. We had just got to LA. It was a tight schedule. And she said, you're a grown man. You do what you have to do. But I understand that, if you leave, you're leaving us in a bind. So I had to make some decisions, personally and professionally, and I didn't leave. I stayed in Los Angeles, and as a matter of fact, I brought my brother to LA after the funeral because we knew who shot my cousin. Who's to say what I may have done if I went to New York? Because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what my younger brother, wanted to do. So I took him out of that situation. But that still didn't prevent my heart from being crushed, shattered, the loss of my cousin. It's one thing for somebody to die that's close to you. We were tight. That was my man. It's another thing to have them taken away from you, to have them murdered. Those thoughts of him laying in the street, bleeding out, of him feeling that pain, of him knowing that he was going to die. Like, these are things that haunted me for years. And as a young man, when this happened, I didn't have the facility to understand how to navigate those feelings, or to help to, in a healthy way, deal with them. I just kind of, ate it, held it, let it sort of fester in my system, and it came out finally. You're gonna have to deal with it sooner. That's facts. And Lambs to Slaughter, this play, was how it came out. I mean, Dorian's mother, my aunt, that's my Aunt Joan. She just passed away this year, just recently, a couple of months ago.
And I'm sorry to hear about your aunt passing.
I know you were talking about, the passing of your cousin, your aunt passing away. How how important for you now, just, with everything that has happened, how important is it now for you to get this out? Because I know you said you let what happened to your cousin fester in your system. So, and you and I talked about this previously, holding those emotions in, how that can come out sometimes and how it can affect you, mentally, physically, spiritually. How how important is it for you to get this out now and to put this out there in the
Um,
world?
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen once it's out in the world. It's art. Um, for me as an artist, the writing of it accomplished for me personally what I needed it to accomplish. I'm healthier for the writing of it. I hope I can share it with my brothers and sisters. and that it may illuminate them in some way, that it may, you know, lift them up and out
Mhm.
in some way, give them voice. Um, I mean, think about it. This is a system that we live in that is not broken. It is working perfectly for the people that created it.
Mhm.
Everything in this system is set up for us to not have a voice, for us to be silent, subservient.
Mhm.
Art for me was a way to have a voice, for me to be able to speak my mind, me to be able to speak my spirit. Um, in having these characters, Paul and Emmett, step to the front of the stage
Mhm.
and recite my thoughts, my feelings in that way was birthed from my experience as a black artist from a young child, seeing the last poets perform when I'm 6, 7 years old, you know, performing the play Zooman and the Sign by Charles Fuller. Zooman goes to the front of the stage and just tears it down. If you're not familiar with this play, check it out. And this play was done by the Negro Ensemble Company, strangely enough. That's crazy to me. Um, so I've been informed on how to do this for years now. There is a legacy of brilliance in this country from black people, um, in all sorts of different areas. But art, especially for me, because I'm an artist, the legacy needs to be illuminated. The legacy needs to be respected. Have a light shined on it, so that the young people coming up behind me understand they're not alone. They're not the first. There were people, kings and queens that came before them that already crowned them. Go ahead and say what you need to say. There is a safe food. And I hope that when this gets out there, that it's able to accomplish that, even if it's just for one or two. I sat with Charles Fuller, the playwright who wrote Zooman and the Sign, and he was, I saw his eyes all lit up after hearing me perform. You know, he was excited.
Mhm.
He knew I got it. He understood that I received the blessing that he offered. It gave him life.
But that's got to be an amazing feeling to know that somebody connected with what energy you were putting out there, and then he connected right back with you, and it sounds like it was just a beautiful experience for the both of you, just
Yes,
in that space
yes.
and in that moment.
I mean, as a writer, you don't know if what you wrote is going to be understood or received in the way that you offered it. Many times it's not. That's what excited him, that he could see and feel and hear that I understood it, that I got it, that I received the blessing. It was a blessing. I mean, discussing August Wilson with young actors and letting them know that he wrote it for you. As it's a gift. Don't look at all these words as like, oh, damn, I got to study all this dialogue. No, these are gifts
Mhm.
this man blessed you with. Receive them in that manner.
And you know something, just even with you saying that, I'm going to go to Joan, to your character Joan, and I'm going to
Yes,
tell you what really spoke to me, because it's been happening like these last couple of months for me. Just even the time. I wanted to ask you about the time concept. and her losing time. Um,
Yes,
her not being sure about what time it is and
yes,
what's really happening around her. What was the focus? What was the thought process behind using the concept of her losing time?
this is actual. Um, when I came back to New York, when I decided to leave LA and come back home, um, I did a party. It was the 20-year anniversary Juice. So I wanted to throw a party, and I did up in Harlem. I got the Magic Johnson Theater to sign on. I had three big theaters in there, two of the big screens, and it was a free screening for the hood. So a bunch of kids came out, and for me, I thought it would be cool, for some of these young people to be able to see this film for the first time. That was so naive on my part because they had seen it already. Like, they were like, this is my flick. I loved it. And some kid was 15, that they're like, this is my movie, man. It was such a love night. Um, but with that happening, to do the screening and throw a party for the 20th anniversary, but I also wanted to incorporate some sort of outreach, and I found an organization called Harlem Mothers Saves, and this is an
Hmm.
organization that takes parents, mostly mothers, but sometimes fathers also, and counsels them and carries them through the mourning process after they've lost a child to gun violence. Um, they'll counsel you as long as you want, as long as you So we were able to raise some money and cut them a nice check that night. I'm still cool with them. We still chopped up and did things together. But in doing that, I was able to go up there and speak to a lot of the mothers, um, and hear their experience. I mean, this was also an inspiration for me to write this play. Their story needed to be told. Their pain needed a release.
Hmm.
Um, this is something that was told to me from them. It's something that I had heard from more than one of these mothers, that they lost time. They didn't know what
Mm.
day it was. Didn't know what was going on. They were consumed by grief and mourning. It really didn't matter whether it was Tuesday or Wednesday. Who really gives a shit at this point?
Right.
So that's where I got that from. And then the other implications that we can that we can place on top of that are many for us as a people.
Right. You're absolutely right. And it's crazy because me and Nolo were discussing the play yesterday actually. And we even talked about just the different concepts of things. And I don't know if this was where you were going, but I'm gonna say it. um there was a line, or there was a part in there uh where the son was talking about how Joan used to promise that he would get like this treat, and then the next day it wouldn't happen. Is what Was he that cold to her because of maybe a lot of broken promises that she made to him?
In that moment, during that speech, he did say that he did get the treat one time. There were times that he
Yes.
did get the treat. Sometimes he didn't. Sometimes he did. Right.
Right, right, right.
Right. Now we talk. Now we have to deal with a level of consistency in our family
Mm.
structure. Is that there? Would you say that there's a level of consistency for the black family structure in America?
No.
No, there's
Honestly,
not.
Not
no.
enough.
What was your experience?
Oh gosh, my experience, definitely not consistent. Some days, some years, my dad would be, he would stay with us. Some days he didn't. Some years he was living with the family. Um, and it was just
Now,
real. It
now,
was inconsistent.
now, now, do you think that this was purposeful, or sometimes through circumstance?
Mm.
So there's a difference
Looking
between it
back,
being purposeful and circumstantial.
that's true. That's true. Sometimes I would say you have to look at it like maybe it wasn't about us, about the kids at that time, but I think sometimes it's circumstantial because of the relationship between the parents, like the parental structure. So, yeah, I think circumstantial for me. For me, I don't know about what about you, Nolo?
I feel like the purposes came from the circumstances with mine. Um,
Yeah, me too.
there was, there was, it's weird how it was consistent and inconsistent at the same time.
Ah,
Um,
right.
my parents separated when I was a child. I don't remember 4 or 5. But my dad was always still around until 16, and then I learned in 2016. So 2006 was the last time that we spoke. The last time I saw him, and then I learned in 2016 that he had passed in 2014. So, um, when he was around, I always saw him. I never felt, excuse me, I did feel the I did feel that distance between of the separation. But when he was around and we could speak and I got to visit him, I didn't feel the separation. I always felt like, yeah, I got my dad still, I have my mom still, even though they weren't under the same roof. I still had both of them, and they were there. And then, once he was gone, that's, I guess, when it really, it really dawned on me, like how much, I guess, was happening. But I was either numb to it or blind to it, or I just didn't know I was supposed to respond to it. And that's when I realized just how inconsistent everything that I thought was consistent really was.
Mm.
Yeah.
So that was something I related to a lot with Emmett. Um, that resentment when you look back and see oh, it really wasn't as great as I thought it was or as I remember it to be.
Now, the idea that there could be a 2-year separation in time between the time your father passes away and you finding out about it could be really difficult for some people to believe, especially people that have a consistent family structure. They would think, how could that
Right.
happen? How could you not know that your father was dead? Like that makes no sense. Like that would seem like such a foreign concept to them, and that's why things are problematic now because they don't understand the effects that this system has on everything. I mean,
Hmm.
to speak to that, right now, I don't know if my father is dead or alive. I don't know. Why the fuck do we live like that? But we do.
Yeah.
We find a
Yeah.
way. Now that particular moment um is real. My mother had to read that. And the first thing she said, she goes, I can't believe you remember that. Now there's a big difference between what you get and what your mother would like you to get. What she wants to give to you and what she can give to you.
Mm.
Reality is a bitch, man.
Yeah.
Just because you didn't get it doesn't mean she didn't want you to have it.
Right.
I mean, she couldn't swing at that time. And we all got to
Wow.
deal with that. So it's not just the child that feels the pain of that, it's the parent too. Because now
Yo.
you're dealing, you're living in an environment of pain over some toy or a pair of sneakers or a goddamn ice sandwich.
It's crazy saying that too, because even saying it just now, I remember having those talks with my mom and finally seeing it from her perspective, and then reading it in the play. I didn't see it from Emmett's. I didn't see it from Jones' perspective. I only saw it from his. I was like, yeah, I know what that feels like. And it's like I went right back into those feelings and that resentment that I thought I was fine with. So clearly there's things I have to go talk to my mom about. But
Yes.
yeah, it's like yeah, it's really like really ingrained in us. Like some of
But
these
see,
things.
that's the power. That's the power of a piece like that. That if you go to see that play, leave, and then 2 days later sit down with your mom and have that conversation, then I did what I was supposed to do. There's a play that I actually was in that I performed in Pittsburgh called Pipeline. It's a Dominique Morisseau play. I went and saw this play at Lincoln Center with my mother, and then I think it was 2 years later I got cast to perform it in Pittsburgh, some regional theater. Was dope. But after seeing this play, like over the week, my mother and I were having conversations about the piece. And Pipeline is about the pipeline from the school system to the jail system, and it's the black parents and their black child who's in a private school gets into some shit, and they're talking about pressing charges, and it flips them out. Um, a week later, probably after my mother and I seen this play, I went over, to hang out with her, and she sat me down and apologized to me for my childhood. I tried to stop her. I told her, Mom, you crazy. I had a great childhood. You were an amazing parent. She told me to shut the hell up and listen. And I did. And this was sparked from a play. She felt the need to go back in, rectify some situations, answer some questions, not just for me, but for herself. It was wrong. It shouldn't have been like that. That's not your fault, Mom, but it is because I'm the parent. It's my job to do something about that, and I couldn't, or I didn't. I don't know which is which, but it didn't happen. I'm sorry. You turned out amazing, and that probably has more to do with you than it did with me. And I mean, we battled about this, but I love the fact that a piece of art sparked that conversation.
The dark should.
That's crazy. I mean, and not in a sense like insane, but it's crazy in a beautiful way because
Yes,
you never know how what you put out there. Your job is just to put it out there. You don't know how somebody's going to react to it or how it can change
exactly.
somebody's life. Like even with this discussion, just thinking about like my life, like with my parents, like they probably did want, different things for me and they probably feel some type of way or some sense of guilt because they could not give that to me. You know.
Yeah, but they
So
know
that's
you
something
intimately.
that's
They
true.
know what your gifts are, like nobody else in the world does. Maybe even more objectively than you do.
Hmm.
And for them to have to sit in what they weren't able to facilitate for your brilliance. My mother had me when she was 17. I mean, it is not easy by any stretch. Um, and to sort of figure out a way to put that dynamic on the stage was important for me.
Mhm.
We're talking about two people growing up together.
Wow. They sure did. They really did. And and I just want to say too about I want to talk about Paul a bit. I want to talk about it seems like he knew that there was a part of Joan that needed him, even though she was resistant to that and maybe resistant to maybe the things that they may have gone through in the past too. But where did you pull the inspiration for just for his character from and just the dynamic of their relationship?
From watching my mom navigate her love life, I mean, the structure of the black family is very interesting. Um, I have I have three fathers that I claim, and probably four mamas. I mean, hell, my mom had when she was 17. I was raised by my mother and her girlfriends. you know, I mean,
Right.
I got women out there in the world that claim me as their son because they changed my diapers. I can't say shit to them. I'm a grown ass
Nope.
man. Aunt Bev, Aunt Gail, they be like, boy, you better. And I gotta, I gotta give them that respect. I can't say
You got
nothing.
to. Nope.
You
Right.
know, and that's
That's
how it
true.
is. That's what it is. Now, there are people that are gonna be in your life whether you want them to or not, and that
Hmm.
also is family. And that's what Paul is. He knows it. She knows it. Now I'm not gonna mess with you if I can't help you. If I love you, I'm gonna leave you alone. And this is a burden of the black man in America. If I can't help you, I'm gonna leave as opposed to be a burden to you. My sister, who I love so much, my beautiful black queen, who I love more than life. If I'm hurting you and I can't help you, I need to go. That happens all the time. I'm still a part of you, and I always will be. Now, Paul's finally in a place where he feels like he can actually help. He can be a positive force in this woman's life. And this happens at the exact time when she needs somebody the most.
Hmm.
He does what he's supposed to do.
And it took time. It did take time for her to just be like, you know what? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go with it. And I think also with that particular dynamic, I know Nolo and I were discussing the dynamic between Paul and Emmett as well. We were talking about that dynamic, and especially with what happened in the climax of everything. Nolo, I know you had we when we were discussing it, I know you had a couple, well, a question or two just about how Paul reacted, maybe.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. How I it's for what happens. I'm just trying to find the best way of putting it. For what happens, like at the end of the story and the reaction to it, like is that something that is going to be explored more? Is there I guess more to it? Um,
What do you mean? It's what's specifically going to be explored more.
how Paul reacts to the news he receives from Emmett at the end of the story.
I'm assuming when you pose this question, you're talking about another play, where we see no, it is going to be explored more, and that happens at home for the audience. That happens
Mm.
when you and I go see the play, and then we go back, to the crib, or we go to the bar to have something to drink, and me and you chop it up and talk about it. Like how the hell? Wait a minute. So what goes on now? And there, like, where do you go from
Oh.
there? Like, what that's yeah, that's where that's explored more.
And
Okay,
it's crazy because you made us ask those questions of each other when we were discussing it, because
that's
we were like,
yep.
what happens? Like, if I was him, I don't know how I would feel. I would be torn. And it's kind of like that with black families. Like, sometimes we
Yes,
do get news about things, like we have a family member that might be abusing somebody else, but they're our family. So
right.
how do we navigate that? So that definitely made us talk about it. And it did make us explore those things. So you okay, you definitely accomplished what you set out to do with that, and with the ending with
Absolutely.
Joan and how she responded too. um, we were kind of like, wait,
Absolutely.
how would we respond to something like that? How would we how would we navigate that? What are some healthy ways, um, that we could just deal with finding out the truth of something, just so.
Also, this idea of us being our brother's keeper. I mean, this
Mm,
is a relevant idea. This is something that is necessary to our very existence moving forward. And I feel as a people, an area where we fall short many times. How do I touch on this? How do I speak on this? How do I elaborate on my feelings concerning me being my brother's keeper?
hmm.
I feel like I found an interesting way to approach that idea
You
in that
definitely
situation.
did. You definitely did.
Yes. Yes,
Um,
you did.
and I think what was beautiful at the end of it all was just Jones being able to move forward, you know, just to move forward and not stay stuck. Because reading it before, like when I was reading about like the whole thing and reading her, um, how she reacted and just how she was losing time and everything, I didn't expect for her to be able to move on. But I think by having somebody like Paul, um, and this is just me, just my interpretation, of the ending of it. Having somebody like Paul in her life, I think she was able. It to me, it sounds like she was able to lean on him, you know, and I don't know if she ever truly found out. Well, what happened? I know Paul
Right,
knows,
right,
but it's
exactly.
like, she was able to move on
But
and
there
to
are
to,
some things we
to me.
need to know and some things we don't need to know. As
Right.
an adult, there's stuff that's come out from my mother that happened that I didn't know happened that blew my mind. But I think if I would have known about it when I was 14, it might have crushed me.
Right.
So we have
Mm,
a responsibility to each other. In that regard, to protect each other. And as far as Joan moving forward, after the deepest pain she's ever felt in her life, what do we need to do right now as a people? 400
Heal.
years of the deepest
Heal more
pain
than
you can
anything.
imagine. We need to move forward. We can't get stuck in time. We cannot lose any more time. We need to move forward.
absolutely. Absolutely. Like I couldn't agree more. I feel like now that you put it that way, like we don't need to know, you know, necessarily what happened. The point is being able to move forward. And that's one other thing I wanted to well, not the moving forward part per se, but I just wanted to also talk about. I felt like at the end, Emmett was able to release, everything that he was holding on to, as much as it pained him to do so. I felt like he was able to release. How important uh, do you think it is just for anybody to be able to express maybe something that they've been holding on to for so long?
It's the most important thing. Just even like I talked about earlier, even the writing of this play, what a beautiful release for me it was, as far as some of the pain that I was holding, about the murder of my cousin. It's given me clarity. It's allowed me to be healthier. Um, we have to find ways, to do that. Have to figure it out, or you will perish. I mean, I don't know, as far as, getting all the answers, knowing what happens in the end, and that being clear. I think that's a false reality. That's not how
Mm,
the world works. We never know all the
that's true.
facts. We get most of them, some of them, a few of them. We get enough to where we feel safe, and then we move on.
Mhm.
I mean, when I hear people, I want to know, and I think to myself sometimes you don't really want to know. As a matter of fact, I know for a fact you can't handle the truth, so I'm not going to tell you the whole truth. I'm going to tell you enough. I'm going to tell you what you can handle so that you can move on, and that's what I did with the play.
Wow. And that's something we see every day,
That's how
honestly.
we live
Like
our
even
life.
yo, that is
Yo,
something we see every day. Like, cause you sometimes you can't, and I'm just being real. Like sometimes you can't tell people everything because they, like you said, they can't handle it. They will not be able to handle it. And you might be protecting somebody. You might be just making sure that that person is maybe safe from themselves because
yes,
they probably can't handle that truth.
right.
So I agree. Wow. Now I'm gonna have to go back and read it like a third time, just
Same. I
Absolutely.
loved it. I loved
Definitely.
it.
because of my mind state now about everything and just this whole conversation. Um, I think the play. I honestly I'm gonna be keeping tabs on everything because now I'm like I gotta see it, and I did see where it looks like before you had done a couple, you had done some readings, in a couple different places, which
Yes,
I can't wait to be able to actually sit and you know view that live myself and like even with what Nolo said, going back and seeing that again. You know what I'm saying? Just to see how they perform it the next time. Like what emotions are they bringing this time? Like what am I going to get from it the next time? I think it's a beautiful piece. I think it speaks a lot to the family structure. I think it speaks a lot to just ourselves and how we care for one another. There's so many different aspects of it, and I know we could probably spend, to be honest, probably hours talking about it. Um, and just for time's sake, I do have one more question. And Nolo, I know you might have a couple too, but the dynamic between let me back up. Let me back up. Let me back all the way up. I saw the contrast between Joan and her friend. Like you have this younger lady. You have Joan. Younger lady's trying to get Joan to come out of her shell. Not come out of her shell per se, but just come out of the house. Um, I think with sisterhood too, and I was glad that you did tap into that. A lot of people don't understand that we do have to be able to lean on our sisters. Heck, be able to lean on our brothers to sometimes
yes,
get us out of those things. So
yes.
what did you see? I know that you said, your mother's girlfriends, um, and just like that, the village that you had around you. What did you see? Was there anything specific that uh, just inspired that type of relation, or bringing that type of relationship into the play?
When we are going through pain, a lot of the time it's about us. You're the one that's feeling the pain. You're the one that's going through something horrible. So you go inside. It's about you. You're like, I can't believe this is happening to me. This hurts. And we tend to forget that there are people that rely on us, that are looking to us to take care of them. Now, when you go away to take care of yourself, there's a void for those people. Sometimes they need to come get you, and it's not always a selfless act. Sometimes it's a selfish act. I need you to be healthy again so you can take care of me. Like, this is not working for me. This is not working for me at all. And I think that's kind of where Athena was at,
Mm,
in that sort of in between place. Um, her mother's not there, her father's not there. Joan was sort of filling that space for her. They were filling that family space for her. Her
But
brother was murdered too. He wasn't her
mhm,
brother blood, but she knew that
right.
man. She mourned that young man. It affected her in a very visceral way. She had a physical reaction to it. I mean, how were you affected by that happening between her and Emmett?
Now, I'm gonna tell you when I was reading it, and I was like, "Whoa, what if Joan ever found out about the
Right,
type of relationship
right.
Athena and Emmett had?" I would flip my lid. Like if I found out my kid was having, was having that type of relationship with somebody that I called a friend, but that's a reality. That is
Yes,
definitely a reality
yes,
of the
it
world we
is.
live in too. It happens all the time, and
You
people lean
can't
on each other.
handle the truth. That
You
doesn't mean I don't
can
love you. That doesn't mean that I don't love you. It's just that this is what's happening. And that you can't take that away. You can't erase it. It happened. To love you though. It,
and that's just another thing too. And I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
no, I mean it is what it is. And people are desperate and do things out of desperation during desperate times. I mean the way black people love each other and love themselves in this country, in this environment, is a difficult proposition. That's the most hopeful way I can phrase that. I mean, I've made mistakes in loving myself and in loving women. Um, that I'm just now, as a maturer person, beginning to understand the hows and whys of some of the decisions I made, and
But it does say
understanding that.
something.
No, but
Go
understanding
ahead.
that if I did not actually buy into or believe in some way what this system was telling me that I am, I might have made different choices. And now that I'm mature enough to understand that, you know what, I did buy into that. I did in some way believe that I was what they said I was, even though I wasn't.
Mm.
That's why I did that stupid shit. And that's why I don't do that anymore. Because I know better now.
There is a level of growth for you to even think about the things that you did back then and just kind of be able to analyze how it worked. You know what I mean? Or how you were back then and be able to say, you know what? That was stupid. That was stupid as hell. Why did I even do that? Because you do end
But
up listening to. Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about a system that tells you you're a nigger. I mean,
Yeah.
like literally, that's what it's set up to do. And if you hear it 100,000 times, by the time you're 9 years old, what are you going to believe? How is that not going to influence you in some way? Your mindset on who the hell you are, where you fit in, what your next steps need to be, is insidious and very real. I mean, if you think about the
There's
fact, no, but think about the fact that the president of the United States decided he was going to have a white supremacist rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Juneteenth. Whether it was thwarted or not does not erase the fact that a criminal act was thought about there, was attempted. But that is, in effect, a spiritual lynching. The site of Black Wall Street, the massacre, I'm going to hold this white superiority rally on Juneteenth. This is purposeful. Infect the spirit of an entire people that you're supposed to be protecting. So when I see my people act out and make decisions that might not necessarily make sense to me. Sometimes I get it. I get it.
But what I will say, because you know what, and it's kind of like you're right. It is like you are right. We have been called these things for years. They call us animals. They call us niggers. They call us uh, beasts. We're not even a whole person.
But that's
We're
not just for
property.
us. That's for them too. They are indoctrinating their own children in that thought process. But they grow up and believe it. And believe that is true. So it's not just us believing this. It's them too.
Mm, mm-hmm.
I mean, if somebody's constantly telling you, you know, you are a specific thing, what do you need to do to dispel that idea for yourself?
But you just made that statement, and it really connected a lot of shit, to be real.
There you go.
They have been told that stuff, that they've been told shit too. Oh, we're the better
Yeah,
race. We're supreme.
right.
We're better than you. You know, and they even have people that are coming into the country, some people that are coming into the country believing that they're better, but no, they're also looking at you as less than as well. But that's something that they've been told for years. They're better than, they're superior to us, and that's the type of attitude that they hold. And
Yes.
I feel like things are changing, but like we talked about last time, I mean, we're gonna see. I think things are changing. I think some things are done symbolically, like even with them the Aunt Jemima thing, the Uncle Ben's thing. Great, that's great. But it's so much more that has to be changed. It's so much more that has to be changed. It's not just that. Like that's good and all, but what about the things that are happening to our people now? Like
We
what
are a
about that?
very young. We are uh, historically we're a very young country. So yes, change is happening. It might not be fast enough for me or possibly you, but it is happening. Who's to say how long this is supposed to take? There are lessons here to be learned. And I mean, this is a lesson that needs to be retained. Or how much suffering needs to be involved in that?
Hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I'm in it right now, so I just have to do my
Right.
part.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to ask, with this play, outside of this play, are you working on anything else, like any more plays coming out,
Oh,
or
during during the lockdown, I finished the next joint. I could send you that as soon as we get off
well,
the
come
phone.
on. Well, come on. Let's
Uncovered
do it.
wag.
Send it.
This next play, Uncovered Wagon, is a beast, yo. I'm so excited about it. Um, I'm looking forward to having the Negro Ensemble Company as an artistic home and a place where I can have a voice and have my work be produced. Um, I'm doing my thing, man. I'm all about you know that ninja way of doing things, man. You're never gonna, you know, I don't know. I I'm a firm believer in that everybody's not on your side. So if you're
Mm,
telling everybody your business, or what your next move is, you might be shocked and amazed at who, in the shadows is blocking you. I'm like, yo, all right. So I just kind of go about my business.
right.
You're somebody who actually reached out to me, and cool. This is a very intimate space. Um, and I feel like the work that I'm doing and the work that gets done by me will be seen by my people. The people who are supposed to see it, the people who are supposed to know about it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not worried about everybody. You can't save everybody. You can't bring everybody. Bring your people.
Nope.
So that's where I'm at, and I'll be happy to send you Uncover Wagon. Uncover Wagon is dope. I'm like very excited about it. The cat that is going to do the dramaturge work for Lambs to Slaughter was in a writer's workshop with me. He ran it. Him and AJ Muhammad, him and a woman, Cynthia Robinson, were running this writers workshop for the Fire This Time festival. And AJ was like, "Yo, what's up? I was working on this play, Uncovered Wagon, during this writers workshop, and I'm just, knocking through some ideas and working on, some stuff." And he's, I'm talking to him about Lambs to Slaughter, and he was like, "Bro, what's good with Uncovered Wagon though?" Like I was like, "Oh wow, I totally forgot about that." And then, we get shut in for this COVID-19 thing, and I just dove right in, man. And it's funny when you look at, well, for me, looking at this piece that I hadn't touched in almost a year, I was like, wow, I wrote that. Like, it didn't even sound like my voice. So it was really interesting to me. It was exciting work, and I'm proud of the piece. So, yeah, I'm writing, Tammy. I'm writing, man. I am writing, real for real.
Good. Good. Like I think your spirit
As
has a
an
lot.
look,
You have a lot to
as an
say.
actor, well, no, but as an actor, it's your job to sort of bring to life somebody else's ideas, somebody else's words. And I don't know, time and time again, that some of the words I was being paid to say were words that would never come out of Khalil Kain's mouth. But I'm
Mm,
getting this nice check, so you know what? I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it with some flair. I'm gonna say it with a little bit of verve. I'm gonna say it as honestly as I possibly can. But we might have a conversation about it privately, you know, and I'd be like, I had some reservations about that. Rent still got to get paid, though.
right.
In perpetuity, your vision should stand alone if a vision is something that you have. I mean, I'm able to read James Baldwin's work now and have it move me to action. If, what if he decided not to write? Then what?
Hmm.
How much, how less we are without that. So yeah, I've been feeling compelled to write some things down so that people that think they know me can actually know me. Because I've been shocked and amazed over the years at some of the things I've heard about myself and some of the things I've heard that I believe or how Khalil gets down. I'm like, really? That's how Khalil gets down? Okay, cool. I'm like, all right. That's
It's some.
interesting. But yeah, the only way to like have your voice really be heard is to have a voice, and some people, there's all kinds of ways to do that, So this is my avenue right now.
Well, I love it, and I need you to make sure you send me Uncovered Wagon
All right, cool, cool.
ASAP.
I will.
Cause I
And
was like,
honestly,
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the last piece, and I'm excited to read Uncovered Wagon, and I really
all right,
am.
cool, cool. I'm happy we were able to have this discussion. I'm really excited that you and Nolo both understood the piece and that you felt it the way you felt it. That makes me happy.
Awesome,
I'm glad I got to read
awesome.
it, man.
Right
That was an
on.
honor for
I
real.
mean, hey, y'all are up, up on game now. When it pops out, you be like, man, I read that last year. I talked to brother last year. I know all about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be one of
So
those.
like,
I'm gonna be flexing. So
There you go.
awesome. But listen, um, Khalil, thank you just once again. It's been just a pleasure just having you on, sharing your thoughts about your play, discussing it with us, just taking the time out. Um, don't forget about me to send me the piece because
I
I'm
will,
gonna be
I
waiting by
will
my
send. I will
email.
send it. I will send it ASAP.
Okay, okay. Well, listen,
Right.
I'm gonna let you get out of here, and thank you
That.
just once again, and thank you, Nolo. Thank both of you for just coming through, just giving me your time, on this hot Sunday afternoon. Um, and I hope we could do this again soon. And
That.
thanks again, guys.
You got it. Peace.
All right, peace out.
Peace.